On this episode of Das Hooah, we'll be sitting down with Leo from VetCave at the VetCave headquarters. We'll be having a real conversation with a real veteran about real things we're all really going through. Leo, thanks for sitting down with me and have a conversation.
Thank you for coming to my VetCave, Frank. It's great to have you.
Yeah, I'm real glad to be here, man. It's been great. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Born in Brazil, São Paulo, from Brazilian parents. Grew up there until I was 12, and then my dad was transferred to Mexico City. So we got to live there for 10 years in Mexico. Wow. Played pro soccer, minor league down there for a few teams, and career wasn't going too far, so my dad said, hey, you should try soccer in America and go play for a college. So I gave it a shot and ended up here in Utah, Brigham Young. Yeah. Wow. Lasted 3 semesters though.
So in your professional career there, you're getting paid playing with these teams, man.
Yeah, 14 years old, my dad signed my first contract.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was from 14 to 20 that I got to play, and best life ever, man.
You're in college here in Utah. You're getting your degree there, and somehow you end up in the military. How'd that happen?
Third semester at BYU, GPA 1.3. Right, I was struggling with the culture, just adapting to learning in English. Yeah. After a soccer game, I went to a T-Mobile store. I was going to pay my bill. Yeah. And the kiosk just kept rebooting. It was driving me crazy. So I tell my friend in Portuguese something, and I overhear this person at the store say, look at these foreigners. They can't even pay a bill. They should go back to their country. Man, that boiled me so much. I called him out on it. I asked where his grandpa was from, and finally, great-grandpa ends up being from, somewhere in Wales or Great Britain or something. Yeah. I was like, well, there's an immigrant there, Yeah. So I'm driving home. I'm crying angry, like one of those, you're so angry you cry. And I just remember seeing a big thing that said Armed Forces. I was like, f it, I'm going to go there and check it out. Walked into the Coast Guard, didn't feel it. Air Force, didn't feel it. Walked into the Army. It felt about right, but it was a big commitment. Once I found out about the Army National Guard and what they stand for as far as local community militias and taking care of your neighbors and friends, I thought that was the right place for me. And so I signed the dotted line, got home, told my wife, I just joined the military. And
just like that.
She asked me why, and I said, I just really wanted to earn my citizenship. I didn't want anyone to ever tell me to go back to my country. Yeah. And so that was that.
Were you already in the process of citizenship before this?
So through marriage, I received my green card. My wife's American. So eventually I could have gotten my citizenship. Yeah. But I just don't feel that was the right way of getting it. I really wanted a sense of earning it, and it's kind of been my motto since, to try to earn things.
Yeah, and you feel like you have?
Absolutely, man. Good. Try telling me to go back to my country. I'll just come right back here to Draper.
That's great, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's what a powerful thing. What a powerful way in. And so what'd you do? So you're in the military and you served a full contract. What were your plans once you were in? What started forming up then? So
as soon as I was in, I realized that this was about camaraderie, and coming from a professional soccer background, it's very much like that. You're working out, you're with the same people every day. Mm-hmm. You train for a specific mission, right? When games, when combat scenarios or whatever the MOS is, and the mission, right? And so I loved that aspect of it. And so it was really easy to just feel like I was at home and in the right place. Yeah. The goal was to, 20 years. I always looked up to my drill sergeant. He was an E6, so I wanted to hit that E6 before him. He said he got to it in 6 years. I got to it in 5 years. Nice. So it was kind of like that father-son type situation. Yeah. But yeah, I had big ambitions to go along. And as I learned about the military, officer sounded great, but I just love being an NCO. So it just kind of shaped that way. And if I would have stayed there, I would have definitely liked to pursue that E8, E9 route at some point.
Yeah, but you didn't stay in. So what happened there? Why not?
It's an interesting question. And a lot of it has to do with just events in boot camp. Mm-hmm. And I think my wife will definitely be someone to attest to that. As I came back, things changed. I was very angry all the time. I was having nightmares. I was, dealing with a lot of headaches, a lot of neck pain. I sustained an injury in boot camp with my neck where we were doing modern Army combatives, and this guy, I went for an arm bar. He lifts me up and slams me on my head. And 8 years later, I finally paid for an MRI, and turns out I had some bulged discs in my neck from that event. What I noticed in the military or in boot camp specifically, there's a lot of bullying going around. Yeah. For different personalities, different backgrounds. My battle buddy, he was consistently being bullied. It was just awesome 18-year-old kid, super high speed, and he one time he was just laying on his bed and on a Sunday, and these guys just come in and grab him and they just toss him off his bed, and he slams on the ground. Yeah. So I get up. I was so triggered by that, it just angered me that these guys were doing that to a battle buddy. Yeah. And I just told him, like, dude, you have the same flag on your shoulder, on your right shoulder, as he does. Why are you doing this? We're on the same team, Yeah. Called them out on it. And they told me that they would get me later. And unfortunately, they did.
So what happened with that? What's when they say they got you later, what they do?
I ended up being sexually assaulted in the showers there at the barracks. And
that's pretty horrifying.
Yeah, man. And it was tough because I've always been a fighter. Yeah. And in that situation, I froze. It was a flight or fight situation. I definitely froze, and I didn't do anything. And I carried that for a long time. I was very angry. I would go up to the mountains and just drink whiskey, and just fish all night, and then crash in my car, and then not show up for 2-3 days when I came home. Tough on the family, But I didn't understand the anger, and looking back, I do feel I did the right thing. Fighting wouldn't have been the smartest idea there. Yeah. Slippery situation. I was outnumbered.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Here today, man.
So the anger, when you talk about this, did you realize the connection between that you were angry about being hurt, that you were hurt? Did this come and make sense to you on its own, or was there what brought you to comprehending that you had some post-traumatic difficulties going on?
It took a while. Try to be resilient because that's what you're taught. Yeah. And as long as you're in the uniform and with your guys, we understand each other. Yeah. But it wasn't until I was medically separated from the Army due to my neck that now I wasn't with those guys, and who, by the way, never, it's like once you separate, you don't even hear from your battle buddies anymore, So it was very trying to identify and actually find an identity. And I started having marriage issues with my wife after being in the Army. A lot of my friends were divorcing in the Army. This was about to happen once I was out. And it was a big wake-up call for me where it wasn't normal to yell at my kids. It wasn't normal to just get angry because their shoes were out of place or because my wife didn't do something in a certain way. But I wasn't seeing that for a long time until you see that sense of loss for everything that actually does matter. Yeah. And so, that's how I started realizing that. It was about maybe 3 years ago. Big awakening for me.
So at that time, tell me about your civilian life. Like you were a guardsman. So I assume you had a civilian career.
So right when I came back from boot camp, I had the opportunity to work with a place where they wanted linguists, and I happened to be native Spanish, native Portuguese. Yeah. So I fit right in. Worked with them as an active duty person for about 4 years. Okay. But I kept seeing these buildings going up, Adobe building, and I'm thinking I got to jump on that tech wave before it's too late. You look at an E7 retirement and, the potential out there. And so I took the risk. I went and worked for Dell EMC. They had a hero to hire type program. Mm-hmm. And what I saw there was just an avenue of opportunity. Us soldiers, military people are very driven, especially in a structure like the Army or the Navy, all the branches where you see that progression. And so I just went after it. Started a vet circle at Dell EMC with another veteran, and we grew that to about 100 supporters and veterans internally in the company. We had a little budget to do activities to help others in the community.
So tell me about that vet circle. So you had like a
So it was
an organization in the organization?
Inclusive diversity circle inside of EMC. So they have the different circles, the Latino circles, they have the LGBTQ circles. And this was just a veteran circle. So it was called VETS, Veterans and Their Supporters.
Okay.
So we did a lot of cool stuff, like serve breakfast to the honor flights, World War II veterans. Cool. Huge humbling experience.
Yeah, right.
This opportunity also put me in front of Congressman Chaffetz, Congressman Mielov, Senator Hatch, Michael Dell. So it just opened up a lot of doors, and that's what I saw in corporate America, is that if you're a true go-getter and you're not scared to network and put yourself out there, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
How did this trauma affect you moving into the civilian sector, or did it?
It actually did a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when things got really stressful. Yeah. And these tech companies, if you're working in the post-sales type environment, tech support, that area, things get very escalated. And so I could feel my anxiety consistently growing.
Yeah.
It was, at one point I worked for another company, Pure Storage, and we were putting 50 hours, 60 hours a week sometimes. And that would often get very stressful, tiring. I ended up going to the VA to get prescription for me to keep up with work. I was on Adderall, which was bringing my anxiety even further, and it was just messy. A lot of these tech companies, they love using Nerf guns, and where I was at, they used these whistling rounds. Oh. Imagine that, a little mortar action. Yeah. So it would stress me out so much. At one point, I was talking to someone, and someone shot one of those whistling rounds in between us, and it hit these metal blinds. It made a shattering noise. I just tried to get out of there as soon as possible. The ground even looked different, like I was walking on like dirt or something, and ended up going to a room and called the 1-800 VA support line because I was having this big panic attack. And, and so what I noticed with it, I don't think employers are really that ready to take care of veterans that have these types of disabilities, mental disabilities. Yeah. There definitely needs to be something done much more, a bigger awareness for this, because it's hard for us to thrive in corporate America, and I'll speak for myself at least. Yeah. It's hard for me to thrive in corporate America when I feel like someone's out there to get me, or I'm not reassured with positive feedback that I'm doing a good job. Yeah. Or certain elements, when they're reported, they should be taken serious, like the Nerf rounds that I kept saying were bothering me. Yeah. And so I think there needs to be some level of awareness at a corporate level. I don't know if it's government that needs to get involved and expect certain accommodations where managers get trained on how to handle veterans or manage veterans like this. But it's a tough place, man. It's a dog-eat-dog world. I thought the military was tough, but corporate America gets really tough, especially as you move up into middle management and you start rubbing shoulders with people, and not only that, you start challenging the status quo. That's when people get uncomfortable with you. Most people don't understand what PTSD is. They think that because you have that, you're going to go nuts and start beating people up or yelling at people, or Did you have some experiences with that? Do you have people misinterpret what was going on with you? Oh yeah, I mean, sometimes you just want someone to talk to, and so you're trying to have a conversation with someone about something you're going through. Yeah. And they just feel uncomfortable, so it's easy for them to go to HR and say, this guy makes me uncomfortable. Yeah. Yeah. Right? And so HR doesn't handle it as, what can we do to help you? Yeah. They handle it more as, well, here's one warning, one flag. Yeah. At one point, I was accused of smelling like weed at work, and I thought, well, I don't smoke, so how is this possible? Had to go drug test, and I started feeling like people were working towards getting me out of that job, and a lot of different things happened to me in corporate that, but at the end of the day, I left with my head up high. It's been an interesting ride since my last job in May. Yeah. I started doing some consulting. Yeah. Specifically in the development of junior leaders. Okay. First, this consulting firm is called the Silicon Slopes Millennial Leader. All right. And it's really focused on giving a space for these junior leaders to come and vent, brainstorm, do some career development with them, roadmap their careers. And a lot of this came just from being an NCO and enjoying doing that. It's my biggest passion. Yeah. With that though, biggest fight of my life was finally earning that MBA. I started out 2017 after the marriage challenges and us trying to recover from a terrible criminal act in Mexico and Cancun between my wife and I.
So this I don't know about this.
You know, we were in Cancun celebrating our 10-year anniversary, and unfortunately we were just victims of a terrible act, a criminal act.
You don't have to get into details about that. I understand that, but how did that experience affect you, and what were you doing?
And after that happened to us, it was devastating. I'm grateful that we had our family close by to help, especially with our kids, because it was just at a level where we couldn't even take care of ourselves for a minute. It was extremely traumatizing, and it's unfortunate, but we're moving on. You know, we fall forward in therapy and just good support groups around us, and here we are, still standing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to finish my MBA. I'm working 60 hours at this company, trying to keep my job, and that's when I realized I had PTSD, because I couldn't control anymore the anxiety and the stressors that I was having.
Yeah.
Just a huge challenging time, and I remember telling my wife, I can't do this MBA anymore. I'm just going to quit. She's like, no, let's make this happen. I'll help you. I'll review your papers. You know, I noticed that I was so traumatized that I couldn't get creative juices flowing to write a paper, so I would have to get a little Head Start help, you know, on just give me a little idea so I can run off of that.
Yeah.
And man, I had all the support. It took me 3 years instead of 2, but last December, my 12-year-old goal, you know, I was 12-year-old when I decided to do this. My dad told me to do it, and I committed to it, and I got to walk. It was huge, man. I didn't even want to look at anybody, or I was just focused as I walked across, because it was a big cry moment for me.
Yeah.
Very emotional. But we got it done, and I ended up earning my MBA in high performance organizations and entrepreneurship. So this is, to me, the most valuable contribution I think I can give right now, and it's keeping me healthy and keeping me going, is the VetCave.
Yeah.
So it was my capstone for my MBA.
So tell me about VetCave. What is VetCave for you? How did you get involved in this thing? What started this all up?
So we were right here in this shed, right here.
Okay.
I had tools. I had gasoline smell in here. I had an electrician wire my hot tub, and I asked him, hey, can you run a cable to the shed? So I found myself more and more in here watching English Premier League soccer games. You know, and I just wouldn't leave. I would just stay here, and I realized I was isolating a lot, which was a concern. And so one day, Matt Bernal, my good friend, we were in the same unit in the National Guard. We were just in here talking and having a drink, and I told him, like, hey, he was simultaneously building something like this, by the way, and uncoordinated. We weren't even talking about it. And I told him, like, what if we like pimp these things out and we did it in a reality TV format? And we raised awareness on PTSD. We built these for veterans in their backyards, so their kids and wives or husbands don't have to deal with that anger, you know, the triggers. Come in here, just retreat, recover, take whatever medication, you know, that you take, meditation, whatever you do. That way you can reintegrate. Mm-hmm. And it was a great idea. We both got super excited. You know, we thought, yeah, dude, that's great. But then came the thought of, what if they start isolating? And like I said, my passion is to help people progress, help people get further in life. It's pointless for you to get to a certain point without bringing people with you.
Right, yeah.
Right? And so that's when the idea came to teach these veterans, whoever we build these for, to become entrepreneurs and run a business out of this space.
Yeah.
So here I run my consulting business, and I run the VetCaves. This is like the mini headquarters. It all starts here.
Yeah. So that's you know, you talk about the concern of veterans isolating, right? I had PTSD, mm-hmm. and if I was not tracking on that, and I didn't understand as much as I do, and I was isolating, I mean, I could be going mad. Are there things that VetCave is doing to help the veteran understand they've got PTSD and what they're dealing with?
Part of the qualification really is that you have to be diagnosed with PTSD, mm-hmm. right? You're going to the VA, you've seen a therapist, you've probably taken medication of one type or the other, right? And so that helps us gauge, okay, we really do have a person that currently is diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
But the VetCave is more than that. It's about raising awareness. And my hope, just like I think that's Hooah's hope is that people watch this and they can relate.
Yeah.
And they can say, wait a minute, I get angry too. I came back from boot camp. I was super angry. I couldn't deal with my kids being out of order, right? Or like those little triggers or indicators. I hope people can see that and say, let me go talk to a doctor because I may have PTSD.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as the isolation goes and coming in here to just vent or be angry or retreat, I'm hoping that the veterans that we work with, part of it is, it's not just the VetCave. This has to be a community effort.
Right.
So we want to pair these new entrepreneurs with local business owners for mentorship. We want them to be part of this awesome community.
This gives the veteran an opportunity to not be their story, right? Like you get to come outside of, you have a place where you can go and have your wound and nurse it, you know, if you need to, right? But what you're suggesting here is that we're bringing the veteran outside of that. By giving them the space, it's to bring them outside of the space and help the transition process.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a beautiful idea. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. You're started up. You're a 501c3. So you're an organization.
We're legit, man.
Yeah.
It's happening.
What's the hopes? What are we going to do with this thing?
So we have our first project coming up October, November for a specialist that came back from Iraq.
Okay.
He's in a lot of struggle, but he wants to own a service dog training program.
Yeah.
So we're trying to design a cave within a 10 by 12 space where he can have that, right? That's the new project coming up. We do have a few milestones we need to hit before that happens. Obviously, fundraising is a big one, especially with this nonprofit environment.
Right,
we're learning as we go.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing right now is trying to have a sizzle, some type of trailer that people can see what the show is going to look like. Right. And that way, when people are putting their hard-worked money into our nonprofit, they can see that this is going for a really good cause, a real person.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make a real reality TV show. These are real lives, real issues, real families, and real impact.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think you're going to be successful with this thing. I think it's a good thing to be doing. I look forward to seeing it succeed.
I'm excited too, man.
Yeah.
And I'll rewatch it.
Yeah. All right, Leo, man. Thanks for having a conversation with me.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you for coming here.
Yeah, absolutely, man.